Hi, Wednesday, June 29th, 2016. Monaco 64 here, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. I want to talk about the Financial Times newspaper of London, or better known as the FT. I try not to read that publication that much, because it's a purely globalist, socialist, fascist publication, in my opinion. For example, in 2004, when gold broke through 400 for the first time in a while, they wrote an opinion piece with no name of the author or anything, saying that gold was it basically said gold is gone, gold is rubbish, that it's something barbaric, they use that term, and that it's worthless having in your portfolio, and that there was no inflation and there's no risk, that central bankers knew better, and that you shouldn't hold gold. And that was in April of 2004, when gold was 400. I'm glad I didn't follow their advice, with gold at 1,300 or so right now. But more to the point and more presently, I've just been reading an article by Martin Wolf, who is like a economics editor for the FT, and he's also a member of the Bilderberg group. He was at the Bilderberg meeting this year in Germany, in Dresden, and I think he attends the meetings regularly. So he is a globalist, and he's very pro-banking, and he's very pro-New World Order, I would say, or globalist agenda. He doesn't believe in the sovereignty of nation states or countries. And his article or opinion piece today, it's entitled, "What a Prime Minister Boris Johnson Should Do Next." So Boris Johnson, for those of you who don't know, he led the campaign to leave the European Union during the EU referendum here, and better known as Brexit. So he's basically saying, writing what Boris Johnson should do. And we all know what Boris Johnson should do, because the British public decided to leave the EU. And what he should do when he becomes Prime Minister right away is to invoke Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty and take the United Kingdom out of the EU. That's what he should do. And I actually think that that's what David Cameron should be doing right now, but he's too much of a wimp to do it. He's resigned. He doesn't want to, he's promised the people of the UK something, and he's not delivering on it, because he should really be in Brussels doing this, but he's chosen not to. So what Martin Wolf says, the main idea of this article is, he says, he might forget the whole Brexit thing, or alternatively call another referendum. So that's his idea. And I'll go through the article here. So he's basically using, the scaremongering tactics about the markets and the economy, to say that, Boris Johnson is wrong, the pound touched a 30-year low, S&P and Fitch downgraded UK public debt, things that actually S&P downgrading the UK doesn't really matter, because UK government yields are really low, so it's not going to hurt the UK government or the Treasury, so that's irrelevant. And you can click on the card above, on the little eye, and you can listen to a video I made a few days ago about how it's totally bogus, this scaremongering about the markets and the economy and the pound. and I argue there very, clearly with data and charts to the fact that Brexit has not been that damaging, at least not as damaging as the '08 crisis to the UK markets or currency. So that totally, negates Martin Wolf's view. And the other thing he brings up is that, now that, the Leave camp is won, he's basically saying that it's only 36% of eligible voters that decided to leave the EU. Well, yeah, maybe because the turnout wasn't 100%, but it's still a very good turnout. It was about, 3/4 of the population just there, which is huge. And it was still 52%. So, and the other thing he's saying, and I quote, "Might it be possible to abort the entire process? Legally, yes. As Brexiteers rightly say, the UK is a parliamentary, not a plebiscitary democracy. The step that must be taken if the UK is to leave the EU is for it to issue the declaration under Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty to trigger the process. In law, a referendum is solely advisory. Only Parliament can do this, but because only it makes valid law." So there he goes, using this advisory, argument. So, and then, he also talks about how the UK banks have been hit so hard, banks shares collapse. Well, mining shares haven't collapsed, they've gone up. Maybe if the banks and the central banks and the treasuries of the world had, really fixed the system after the '08 crisis, maybe bank stocks wouldn't have collapsed, Mr. Wolf. So at the end, he says, he gives like a little story, about a man going to a king and talking about him dying. And at the end, he says, the horse might die, I might die, and who knows, maybe the horse will sing, something about leaving things for another year. And he's basically saying, and he says at the end, and I quote, "I suggest we try that year or so." So he's basically saying, oh, let's wait another year and maybe people will forget about this, even though the British public, voted to leave the EU. So there you go, the FT, which in my opinion is, the only good thing they do is report on markets, and that's something anyone can do, I could do. But in terms of intellectual, strength, I think they're trash, to tell you the truth. There's no, economically and financially, they espouse globalization, and they espouse fascism, and they espouse financialization. They don't espouse like free market or freedom and the respect, for people's property. They're purely, socialist and pro-banking as it is today. Not that, I think banking has a function in society, but not as it is today. And so Martin Wolf, I'm not surprised he's written this, basically saying, it doesn't matter what the British people say. What matters is the FT thinks this is bad and that we should not leave the EU, and that we should save the banks because they pay my salary, the FT. And there you go, Martin Wolf, a globalist mouthpiece for the international banks and big corporations, saying that Boris Johnson should not leave the EU, and that we should ignore the will of the British people. So there's a good old fascist journalist. Well, you wouldn't call him a journalist. He would be a propagandist. Martin Wolf, the propagandist. So if you enjoyed this video, and my views, please like, share, and subscribe. Take care. Bye.